Hi, I'm live. I'm doing something I've never done before, and I'm actually going to be recording my podcast live today on Instagram Live. So I'm really excited. I shared in my stories a little bit ago that I was going to be doing a solo podcast. So if you don't know, I actually changed the name of my podcast recently. So just like I changed my username on Instagram from the Self-Love Lifestyle to Melanie Rose Monaco, I also changed the name of my podcast from the Self-Love Lifestyle to Sacred Healing and Enchantment. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, though I already did a podcast episode about this transition. Hi, everyone. Welcome. But I'm recording a podcast episode here live. I figured, why not? I put into my stories asking what people wanted to hear about, and I got some really beautiful questions and topics. So I'm going to dive into what you all shared. Before we go in, though, I have a ritual deck, ritual cards here. So whenever you're listening to this, whenever you're watching this, this is the message that is meant for you. Healing. That's perfect. Healing. So this is your reminder. Actually, I just did a post about this. You're always healing. So often it can feel like when we are healing, it's when we're receiving care from other people. So it's like you're healing when you're being coached, or you're in therapy, or you're receiving energy healing or massage therapy or acupuncture, whatever it is. And yes, that's true. It can also sometimes feel like we're only healing when we're doing the heavy work, when we're crying, when we're releasing our emotions or our sacred rage, or when we're doing our journaling, or when we're learning something new, right? When we're actually doing work. But healing also happens in the moments of joy. And there's some really beautiful evidence out there, studies about how our brains learn so much faster in moments of play and connection. And so you can actually create some really beautiful moments of healing for yourself through joy. And this is a reminder that belly laughs with your friends, having a really delicious meal intentionally, getting out into nature and just enjoying every moment of it, that's all healing too. So yeah, that's our message for the day. Okay, so when I thought about Sacred Healing and Enchantment as the name of my new podcast, first of all, it's SHE, so it has she in it, and I really like that because of the divine feminine element of the work that I do. Of course, there are men in our community and people who identify as non-binary. I like she as she, the divine feminine. And then I feel like sacred healing, so that's kind of perfect with our message. Healing is such... it's a very used term, obviously. All of us are on healing journeys of different kinds because life happens and we have things we heal from or through. But I like the idea of sacred healing. This is something that I learned, and this is going to go perfectly into one of the topics that was requested. I learned through my PTSD journey that healing in and of itself is sacred. So even if the trauma or the difficulty doesn't feel sacred, the healing journey is sacred in and of itself. And that remembrance, that reassurance really allowed me to embrace the healing journey, because I think I was fighting against it. I was like, how could this happen to me? I can't believe this happened to me. Maybe you've had circumstances like that in your life. But when I embraced the healing journey itself as sacred, I was like, okay, now I can really be here and learn what I need to learn from it. So one of the topics that was asked when I polled our community about what I should talk about in this podcast episode was how to grow your business when you have CPTSD, which is really specific, and actually so specific that I can speak to that experience. But even if you aren't trying to grow a business, even if you don't have CPTSD, there's going to be things in here that I promise you are going to be really valuable to you, because whether you're growing a business or you're growing yourself, it's all the same. So every single hurdle we come up against, or block or resistance we come up against in business, whether it's something like going live or starting a podcast or like sharing your message with the world, right? That's all being seen. And that can be true in your personal life, right? Are you allowing yourself to be seen authentically by your community, by your family? Are you allowing yourself to be seen, like if you're in the dating world, right? All of that. So whether you're growing a business or growing in your personal life, if you have something like CPTSD, or you have a history of trauma, or maybe you've just gone through a lot of stuff and you're like, I don't know how to get out of this. I want you to know that it is possible for two things to exist at the same time. You can have this difficulty. You can have challenges in the past and currently, and you can still be expanding outside of that. And often, so when I was dealing with CPTSD and still healing myself and also growing my business became like a refuge for me. So when I was working with people and witnessing their healing journeys, it would inspire me. And of course, we have to be ethical about this. So if you are a healer, helper, coach, change maker of some kind, if you're not regulated, of course, it's not really ethical for you to hold space for people. So that's why emotional regulation tools, if you're somebody with CPTSD or PTSD, like that's number one. Like you got to do the somatic nervous system regulation. So things like breath work, having like just really keeping on top of some kind of movement practice, energy work, like something to really connect to your body and to release things through your body, even as simple as going for a daily walk for 10 minutes, right? That's going to be number one. And I know it can even be hard to get up the motivation to do those things. Accountability. If you need a coach, a therapist, a community, like seek that out first. And then you'll have the accountability and structure to be able to maintain those habits and those motivations. And somebody who can help you move through your blocks, of course. But if you can so that's the emotional regulation. So if you can regulate yourself, then you can move into holding space for other people. Whether you do that professionally or not, that is actually a really surefire way to help you get out of CPTSD or PTSD, because like it could be something like, yes, if you're holding space for people as a coach or doing a session, it could be that you actually go volunteer, you spend time at an animal shelter hanging out with the animals there, like something to be of service gets you out of your own ego mind, and is a really sacred, long time spiritual teaching, right? For a reason. So that's the first piece I would say, like allow yourself to show up for other people. It gets you out of your own stuff. Okay. So we have seek out support, of course, professional support. Do your daily nervous system regulation to let your body know it's safe, because that's, if you're in CPTSD or PTSD, I've had both. That's like the big thing. Your body doesn't know that you're safe. So you have to remind your body that you're safe through nervous system, somatic tools. And then the third thing is be of service. And that's kind of I feel like it's just not super widely talked about, but it really helped me. And then the fourth thing, I would say meaning making. So I actually did a podcast episode about this quite a long time ago, but there's a really beautiful ritual that was gifted to me by my therapist, counselor. And she had me, this was when I was processing my home birth experience with my son, which ended up being very traumatic, and thank goodness, like we're okay. And now I've healed, but I was really traumatized by it. And she had me do this thing where I laid out stones and flowers. So I went through the whole experience, and you could even just do this with like big like life journey. So it doesn't even have to be one experience, but it could be look at all of the big pivotal moments of your life This is a big ceremony. Maybe it's something I could even do if you wanted to book a deep dive session with me. I'm happy to hold space for you and we could do it together. If you feel like it's something you can't do alone, or maybe it's something you do with a friend or another coach, but you can essentially, what I did is I took sticky notes. I wrote down the pivotal moments. I put them on the floor. And then on the events that were challenging, I put a stone. So I just went outside, collected stones from my garden, and I went outside and collected flowers. And then on the beautiful moments, I put a flower. And then you can see this like broad landscape. And what happened for me that would probably happen for a lot of people, though not all, is there was a very equal amount of stones and flowers. And I could see, even though it felt all bad, it wasn't all bad. And then you can also see the broader story. And when you can do that story telling for yourself of the experience in this specific context, you can have the meaning making. And that is kind of that fifth point or fourth point I would make is if you can make meaning from your experience, you can get through it. Like that is the most important thing. So whether it's what can I learn from this? What have I gained from this? What can I now offer from this? That's even more important. Is like, what does this now allow me to offer other people, offer community? Like, what is the perspective? What is the empathy? What is the gift of this trauma? If you have that piece, it's and if you can figure out, like, if there was a lesson, which if you believe spiritually that you go through things because your soul signed up for it to learn certain lessons, if you can learn that lesson, that's key. And so the lesson that I needed to learn from that particular trauma was that all healing is sacred. Thank you. I see the likes coming through. I see all the hearts. So thank you. All healing is sacred. Even if the challenge itself feels far or feels removed from sacred or feels removed from the divine, it's not. And all healing is sacred. Okay, so I feel like that covers, those who are watching live, if you have questions or anything, feel free to let me know. But that covers that question that came through. The other question that I received when I polled our community about what they wanted to hear about. Oh, so sweet. This comment, all my love for you, you changed my life. Oh, and that's because of the trauma I went through. Also the training that I have. But this is like such a beautiful kind of meta reminder of like, you go through something, then you get to offer healing to other people. What a gift that is. And it makes it all worthwhile. So the second topic that was requested was womb connection. And this is available to you whether or not you physically have a uterus. So I am a trained moon mother. Shout out to Jessica Hood. I'm actually going to be doing, if you're curious to really go into this, she's running a program and I can give you the link to it, but it's called Moon Goddess Miracles. And I'm doing a special guest workshop in it about the maiden archetype. And she trained me as a moon mother, which is a specific lineage of energy healing that you're channeling divine feminine energy healing. And she trained me in this in 2019. And now we're friends. But she's running a program, so go check it out. But I can talk about womb healing in that context specifically. I could also talk about it in the context of my priestess work, but I think I'm going to go for the moon mother, and then I'll do the priestess stuff another time. They're very similar. So the moon mother lineage, started by Miranda Gray, looks at not just the three main goddess archetypes, the maiden, mother, crone, which is not only the obviously life cycle of a woman, but are also the biggest archetypes. We see archetypes being big recurring themes and patterns and characters, right? So these are the biggest archetypes we see all around the world, right? So maiden is Cinderella. Mother, self-explanatory. Crone, fairy godmother, right? That kind of thing. And so we all have these archetypes within us. And in the moon mother lineage, we have the maiden, mother, enchantress, crone. So there's actually 4. And this not only works along with the seasons, but it also works with the different phases of the moon and the menstrual cycle, because there's 4 phases to the menstrual cycle. So if you do happen to have a uterus and you are somebody who has a cycle, then you can tap into these different energy phases depending on what your body is doing and depending on what the seasons are doing. So right now we're in autumn where I live in the Northern Hemisphere. And this is Enchantress time. And the Enchantress is also the wild woman archetype. My analogy that I give is like, if you're healing with the maiden's going to like put a flower crown on your head and have you dance in a circle with your girlfriends and like just be whimsical and free and flirtatious. And the mother is going to pick you up and, wipe your tears away from your cheek and bandage up your knee, rub your back. That's the mother. Make you a good, nourishing piece of toast or whatever it is. The wild woman, and if you're healing with the wild woman or the enchantress, she takes your hand and she runs you wild through the forest screaming so that you can really get out your sacred rage, be in your body, be wild. And then the wise woman, the crone, the sage, she's the one who sits you by the fire with a blanket, the grandmother who sings you a song, and she puts your head in her lap, and she just looks at you with a twinkle in her eye and is a little impatient of like, I know that you're already over this. She just knows. And she kind of has a no BS about her. And because of that, it's comforting. And that's how you heal with the wise woman. So right now in autumn, we're with the enchantress, the wild woman. And this also is, if we're looking at it with the phases, the maiden is pre-ovulation, mother is ovulation, the enchantress is the luteal phase, the sage is the bleeding. It's so beautiful to be able to connect with these archetypes. And so if you're somebody who wants to connect with womb wisdom, I would just begin to connect with not only if you have a cycle, your cycle, definitely. To begin cycle tracking, I really love the app Flow, FLO. I used to work for that company, Elisa Vitti, who started it. I worked for her company and we went to the same nutrition school. I definitely recommend it. Also, like for people who have PCOS, like this is totally not sponsored. They used to pay me. They don't anymore, but I love that app. I still use it. She has a great book too. Anyway, so track your cycle if you have one. If you don't, follow the moon. So the full moon is the mother. The waning moon is the sage, crone, wise woman. The full moon is ovulation, the mother. The waning moon is the enchantress. The new moon is the sage, crone, wise woman. And then the waxing moon is the maiden. So you can follow the moon phases to tap into those energies. And there are different things that you can do, but just really embodying, when I went through those different archetypes, like all the different ways you heal with them, that's the energy you can embody in your own personal life. And there are different activities you can do. If you've done any of my programs, you know I have cycle, like a 1-page PDF. And if that's something you're interested in, you can send me a DM on Instagram or an email and just say, hey, I want your cycle cheat sheet. I used to have that as a download page. Maybe I'll reinstate it. But yeah, it's a really great resource. And again, if you want to go deeper, definitely check out my friend Jessica's program. And I'm going to be doing a whole guest workshop on the maiden, which I'm really excited about. All right, I think I covered those 2 topics, and as more come in, I will do more podcasts. I have an interview that I just recorded earlier this week. I'm really excited to share with you, and I'm going to be doing more interviews to come. I hope this leaves you feeling inspired, connected, and thank you for joining me for this podcast episode in Sacred Healing and Enchantment. The reason why it's sacred healing, well, I already talked about that. I didn't talk about enchantment. I did want to say this. Enchantment, you can tell the way that I share things. I like to share it from a very magical lens, and I studied fairy tales in college through the world of archetypal psychology and depth psychology, Jungian psychology, and I just think it's all real. Like we can live that really magical life. Like I was listening to Moana with my son the other day, and I was like, we can have these experiences. You know, if you've ever seen it, Same thing happens in a lot of other like Disney movies, but you know, her grandmother comes back and visits her as that beautiful like sea creature glowing in the water, or like Pocahontas with Grandmother Willow, or you know, like these beautiful synchronistic spiritual experiences that these princesses have. Like I've had experiences like that too. It's like my mom has visited me. Like it's absolutely possible for us to have these experiences. And so that's why I wanted to infuse enchantment into this work, because you deserve and are worthy, and it is totally possible for you to live a magical life. We didn't create these stories out of nothing, and you can live that story too. All right. I love you. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for listening. I love to hear your feedback. So those listening to the podcast, it means so much to me. Thank you for those who listened to my last episode about this transition and reached out to me. I just really, really appreciated hearing from you. And please let me know what your aha revelations are. Send me a DM or an email. And for those listening to the podcast replay, everything is going to be in the show notes. And I'll see you real soon.
Hey, Mama.
Hi.